get started. It shouldn't really take that long. Thank everyone for their patience and for the length, or well, not the length, but the time of this meeting. I just came from Washington, D.C., so yeah, I had to go ahead and have a pushback of my time. I originally was going to present earlier in the afternoon, so I really want to thank everyone's flexibility. So my presentation today, the title is Cybersecurity Certifications, is at the question, vulnerability, or exploit. I'm Dr. Adam Beatty. I'm the program director at the University of Charleston for cybersecurity. I'm really glad that I can talk with you all today. I just want to do like a little quick overview. Any fan of like certifications here? You like certifications? Okay. Do you like really like certifications? Do you like studying for them? Kind of. Do you like what it gives you? There we go. What does it give you? Go ahead. What does it give you? What do certifications give you? Not a right or wrong answer. Anybody? Pay raises. Okay, what? Opportunity. All right, more. What about learning? Can we agree with that? Does it help you learn as well? Okay, good, right? What I've noticed in my experiences, especially in my career in the past 20 plus years, that certifications have changed drastically. Now, I was one of those comp TIA babies where my certifications are good for life. Does anyone here have to take the renewals, right? Every 3 years, correct? Right, you're gonna have to continue educational units. We'll talk a little bit about that. I want to go ahead and advise, though, I want to be as transparent as I can with this presentation. I'm not for or against certifications. What I want to talk about is some of the things that certifications can do for you as far as your professional trajectory in your career. Now, this is my opinion. This is also research. I'm not saying this is the way that it is. I'm not trying to go ahead and make you feel bad if you have certifications, not trying to make you feel good if you have certifications. But I will go ahead and let you know I have many certifications. All right, so I'll just go ahead and say that as well. I won't go ahead and explain all the certifications that I have. But again, I'm not trying to change your mindset. And I have to say this as well, when it comes to everything I'm talking about today or any other presentation that you listen to of mine, I don't know everything. And if I surely did, I'll surely tell you, but just don't call me Shirley. Ah, come on. I worked 15 minutes on that. All right, I tried. For those of you, Airplane, if you haven't watched it. So, some of the contributions that I've had with the cybersecurity certification realm, I've written books like lab manuals. I've also went ahead and worked on problem-based question formats, a lot of platforms. So I have contributed to the exam-based factor, well, the study factor rather, for the exams. And I will say as well, the certifications are vastly different today than they were 20 years ago. You have to understand, the CompTIAs 20 years ago, you didn't have problem-based questions. Right? Who's taken the CompTIA exam probably in the last 10 years? Okay? Many problem-based questions, probably just a few, right? Safe to say, a couple? Yeah, not that bad. Were they difficult? You had... Did you? Okay. I'm actually with you as well. Because memorization is... Yeah, I don't know if you knew this, but in the cybersecurity industry, we have a lot of acronyms. Okay, yeah, okay. I just want to say that as well. So I'm with you. I find that being able to actually apply and prove that I can do what they're asking of me is better, right? It's kind of I hate explaining it like this too, but it's like when you learn a song on guitar or piano, but you don't have the sheet music in front of you. It's just like that muscle memory. You know exactly what to do. So this is not a sale, but these are on Amazon if you're interested. And if you purchase either of these books, buckle up, folks. I get 15 cents. That's right. And if all of you today buy 2 books, I can get us 1 large pizza with 1 topping. All right. Thank you. My work is done here. So as of right now, basically this citation is a little bit old, but this still stands true. As of right now, as far as globally based valid certifications, 140 certifications with 30 certifying bodies. Right? We know the big ones, right? CompTIA, ISC Squared, EC Council, Cisco. But I also wonder, too, that if the certification industry is preying upon those that are trying to get into the cybersecurity industry as well, information technology industry. And I'm not saying that they're doing that. I don't have an in. I'm not saying that people have told me anything. But as I'm seeing that the certifications are becoming more of a hot topic and more of a bait and switch to get people into cybersecurity. And what I also find, too, is that with the content for the exams, you might have an individual just like, well, I just want to get into cyber. But they don't know anything about cyber, which is fine. That's why you start studying for cyber. Then the second they start studying this content, they don't have any desire to do this whatsoever. I look at it this way. I'll give you my comparison. It's like saying you want to go into nursing, but I don't want to be around sick people. Right? You see where I'm going with that? It's like, again, you just kind of learn as you go through. So this is what I was mentioning earlier as well. At one time, and I am one of those individuals with my CompTIAs, They were good for life. I have a little bit of tug of war with that. All right. And I kind of like to see everyone's hands or just get comments with this as well. Are you for having to renew your certification? Do you agree with the concept of renewing your certification? Okay. Does it keep you current? Right? Okay. I have this little pushback though. If you're in the industry and you're doing basically all the content that's required of the exam in your field, do you think that could be substituted though? Okay, good. The CEU concept, I'm a pro. I'm very pro about that. Being a college professor and being a program director for cybersecurity, I'm very big on that because continuing learning is a part of life. Anyone that's going to get in this industry and you think that you're going to stop learning at one point and just know it all, I'm not even going to say about cyber. I'm just going to say about life. Everyone agree? I mean, you're never going to stop learning. I mean, I have, so don't do what I do. I'm kidding, folks, right? So there's the big three. If you're new to the industry, looking to get into the industry, I want to go ahead and advise these are the big three that I would say to go ahead and start with. And these are three that I have. And so with CompTIA being one of the big players in the industry, for those of you that may not be aware, they partnered with TestOut. Anyone familiar with TestOut's content? Right? I love it. And for the price of it, I think it's great. And you can also obtain a TestOut certification as you're going through the content. With CompTIA though, when they partnered with TestOut, they still have the two separate entities with the test, but I'm not upset about that. With CompTIA, one of the things I like about their content is that they can have the Cert Masters. Anyone utilize this platform, Cert Master? If you haven't, I like it. There's only one problem with it. It's expensive. I mean, it is I think it's expensive. Especially if you are not in the field yet and you're not making a substantial amount of income, it can be a lot of money. So, hedonic treadmill theory. Anyone familiar with this? If not, that's cool. I like to talk about this. So this goes into a little bit about the metacognition and the mindset of what we have with certifications. All right? Show of hands if you have a certification, at least just one. How good did you feel when you had it? How good did that feel when you saw that screen you passed? Oh, don't lie. Felt great. Felt great. Yeah, it did. Did the feeling wear off a little while though? Yeah. Yes, it did. Did you want another one? Yes, you did, didn't you? Did you get a little bit, I don't want to say perturbed, but a little bit annoyed that you had to renew the one that you'd already passed at a later time, right? Maybe you didn't. But where I'm going with this is, with the hedonic treadmill theory, is just that. Imagine you're running on a treadmill and you're running 5 miles and then you stop. And if you're on a treadmill, you didn't go anywhere, right? So at the very end, you don't really feel accomplished. The ebb and flows of what this means is, this concept is very, very valid with the Buddha. And that means you think that this one thing will make you happy, and it will when you pass. Because again, I think you all agree, when you see that pass at the screen, it's one of the best dopamine hits you've ever had, right? I mean, you feel good. You feel accomplished. But after a while, if you don't get the promotion, if you feel like you're stagnant in your job and in your learning, you dip. You see where I'm going with that? What I believe in my research and collaborating with many of these industries that go ahead and provide trainings for certifications, I believe they're capitalizing on our community based on that. Because when you have to go ahead and sign up with CompTIA, EC Council, ICS Squared, all these organizations, you have to provide an email. And I'm not trying to get into a data mining type lecture or whatnot, but again, they know who you are, they know the certifications that you have. I mean, who here has LinkedIn? See, just about all of us. You put that certification on LinkedIn, don't you? Yeah, you want to brag? Hashtag humble brag? Is that a thing? If not, can I patent it? Anyways, all right, anyways. And then the cognition that we have as well, too, you know, when I think of metacognition, and especially when you look in like research of psychology, it's what you think of yourself, what you think about your abilities, what you think about your accomplishments. And so when you do pass that exam or exams, you feel so good. But then eventually you get that dip. There is nothing more frustrating than when you're not advancing in your career. I'll go ahead and give you one that happened to me. You ready for this? Buckle up. I had just passed my CCNA. A month later, I lost my job. I dipped pretty hard. You see what I mean? And these are life experiences. These are just like things that can happen in life. I'm not saying that, you know, I'm not a victim. I want to be very clear about that. This was also past the 2008 crash. It was about 2010 is when this happened. So again, you know, the dip there. And I still believe that these vendors are capitalizing on this mindset that we have because we want to progress. The one thing that I'll say about everyone in this room, everyone here is either in cybersecurity or wants to be in cybersecurity, correct? Fair enough? We never want to be stagnant. Agreed? We're always looking for that next thing. And I will tell you that I'm not saying that everyone else outside of every other industry doesn't have the ambition that we have, but our ambition trumps a lot of other field. I mean, I just think it does. I think if I had to go ahead and say the one other realm that I've dealt with in my career in cybersecurity that I've seen as far as the ambition more than cybersecurity professionals would probably be attorneys. But they just go around the clock. But we're looking to protect, we're looking to learn, we're looking to become better. And I want to be clear too, this last statement, do not confuse what I just said about this treadmill theory with ambition. Can you all nod your heads about that? Don't confuse that with ambition. Don't lack ambition. Don't say, well, that Adam guy said that I'm going to get the certification. I'm just going to be sad 2 weeks later. So ambition's out the window. I'm not saying that. What I'm trying to say is that you have to be aware that you're going to have these ebbs and flows. And sometimes that's not bad. But what the theory comes to as a whole is that you think that this certification will make you happier. But after that feeling wears off, you eventually come back to a normalization of where you were before you even started the certification study. See, so always be aware of that. A lot of people like to call this getting in a rut, right? Yeah. So with everything that I just said, I want to go ahead and give you this line. Good old-fashioned, I love this. How can I get the experience they require if they won't hire me to get the experience? And what's the one thing you're seeing more, Mr. Vickers, if I may, what's the more you're seeing on job applications you've ever seen before, ever? The certifications, right? If you don't have the experience, we'll go ahead and allow your certifications to substitute that experience. Just go on Indeed. It's unreal what they'll ask for. But, oh, I guess I was a little loud. Okay. I do believe that employers are using this as leverage, right? So they're going to go ahead and ask you to have all these certifications so you don't have to have the experience. I also believe that employers are doing this so they can pay you less. Not trying to be a conspiracy theorist, but that's just a thought that I have. And so the other thing too is with some of the certifications, especially the CompTIA Security Plus, a lot of defense departments, you're required to have Security Plus. Anyone here in the DoD has been in the DoD? Okay. Security Plus, almost a requirement, regardless of what branch you're in. It's almost a requirement. And I'm okay with Security Plus. Anyone here take the Security Plus in the last 10 years? I think I said earlier. Okay. Do you feel like you want to take it again? Yeah, no, I'm being serious. I'm not kidding around. Do you feel like it's gosh, with everything else that's out there that's new, you want to take it again, right? Yeah. Okay. Can I capitalize on that? Okay. It's not that you didn't know the knowledge, you just weren't in test mode. Does that make sense? I will tell you that because if you pass the exam before, you have the skill and the ability. It's just, I'll give you one that I had too. When I had to renew my CCNA, I didn't study for 2 years, 349 days. When I started studying again. And again, I knew how to do everything. I could build my own lab. I could do everything I needed to do. When I actually sat down, and I think at that time it was CBT Nuggets. Am I ringing anyone bells for anyone? Yeah, that was the one I was studying with, and I was smoked. I mean, I was just I can't do this. But I took about 2 months and I recapped. I went back on NetAcad and opened up Packet Tracer, anyone? I was going to say, that's still a thing too, isn't it? Gosh, it'll never go away. So again, hang in there. Don't let that floor you. With new content, which is good, but again, you're not in that test mode, but you'll get back into it for sure. So the final thoughts that I have is how do you pay for these certifications? And I'm not saying just the CompTIAs, but you do realize some of these certifications are $1,000, if not more. It's expensive, right? It's very expensive. I'm living in a lofty cloud, I guess, but I think employers should have to pay for them. I really do think it should be almost like an apprenticeship. They have you come in, you don't have the experience, well, come in and start learning with us, and then we'll also go ahead and pay for your certifications. Will that ever happen? I don't know. But that's where I think the vulnerability and exploit is coming into play. Go ahead and do all the work. Go ahead and get all the credentials and then come work for us, right? You're going to have that debt that you have for paying for your exams and all your study materials. And by the way, once you come in, we want you to go ahead and get a next certification and another certification and another certification. We don't want you to leave, though. We want you to stay with us. And I'll give this a little tidbit that I've always heard, too, is that I find it fascinating that organizations will want you to have every certification under the sun, and it's almost like they're preparing you for your next spouse. You know, if that makes any sense. It's like they're almost preparing you for that next relationship. I'll ask you this. Has human resource directors used certification requirements as a method to wean the application hiring process for organizations? I think they have too. I think it's a filtering process. I also think it's a way of scarcity. CompTIA term, go me. It's a way for scarcity to kind of basically persuade people not to apply because they may, well, I don't have those certifications, so why would I even apply? I encourage anyone that if you see a position that you want, go ahead and apply. You can get the certifications later on. The worst thing that they can do is not contact you. And folks, it's a bummer when they don't. I get it. So it is the opinion of the presenter that while higher education certifications are excellent learning tools, experience is the best teacher. Can I get a round of applause for that? Experience is the best teacher. You can't teach experience. I'm saying that as an educator. You can't teach experience. Experience is what's going to be the best tool. I can give you every scenario in the world that you're going to have, but it won't work. So, however, it is also in the opinion that employers need to remember that education and other forms of learning are needed before the experience is obtained. And so what I mean by that is I'm okay with going to college. I'm okay with going to a boot camp. I actually prefer that you do both. I think it's a good way to go ahead and broaden your horizons. But I think that employers need to remember that with our study and with our practice, that if we come in, as long as we understand their systems, we will be able to protect them if we have the said certifications, right? That's why they have the validity. And so now we are doing very well on time. Oh gosh, we're doing super duper on time, and you all haven't left yet. I want to thank you. I'll bring my references up here in a second. I want any questions, comments, or concerns that you have. I'm up for anything regarding this content. Yes?
Currently I have Network Plus, Security Plus, and working on the second portion of my Plus with 711 Monday.
Cool.
I'm also starting to work on CCNA, but they recently updated it, so doing that. And what other certifications do you feel would be important for you to have to widen that to go and appeal to as many jobs before that?
So my first question is, are you wanting to stay in cybersecurity?
I'm curious about cybersecurity and systems administration.
Okay, the first one I would look into after you take your CCNA. I like the goal where you are because that Network Plus is already going to be that foundation. Security Plus will give you that security knowledge and credential. Go ahead and wait for that CCNA, right? Hurry up and wait. As we always like to say, hurry up and wait. After that, I would look into your Certified Ethical Hacker, the EC Council, because that will go ahead and, because it will talk about networks and the security realm of networks as well. I would also go ahead and say if you have the time and you have the interest, I would start learning Linux too. Because with the network administration, I'm starting to see a lot more servers Linux-based than I've ever seen in my career.
I just came out of a Linux class, but I don't have a Linux Plus certification.
Okay.
Do you feel like the class would be suitable without Linux certification?
It could be suitable with, again, if you're able, I would get the Linux Plus from CompTIA. But with your track, again, I would stick with that CCNA first. If you have the time and the availability to study for Linux Plus, I would recommend that certification too. The roadmap for CompTIA is, if you go to their website and you look at their roadmap, it's pretty solid. CompTIA is a major player in this industry. But if you're going to go in the networking aspect and you want to stay in that realm, I would also look at the Cisco certifications. At one time, I was going to be a CCIE. That was going to be the top tier. So I had my CCNP and then kind of let it run out. Don't tell anyone, even though I'm being recorded. So that would be another route that I would look at as well. Yeah, Cisco, the teachings that they have and their certifications, they're tough. And if you're looking for good course content, are you familiar with Todd Lamley? Yeah, Todd Lamley, great author. He still works with what's called Cybex. And if you just look him up, exactly how it sounds, just Tom Lamley. If you look him up on Amazon, his content's great. He has great study materials. Oh, go ahead, say it. I heard that. Yeah. Anyone else? Go ahead. As far as a whole or just for certifications? What I would say, if I could go back when I was 18, 19 years old and I was starting college, I would go ahead, and again, when I was in college and undergrad, it was just computer science. So cybersecurity wasn't a word yet. It was around, but it wasn't a word yet. What I would do is I would start my college education and I would start with the A+. And then depending, if are you in computer science? No, okay. Are you in cybersecurity? Okay, so if you're in the cybersecurity, then the next thing I would focus on would be that security plus. And as you're taking those courses, you'll see the alignment of the classes, kind of like what you were mentioning earlier about Linux. When you're taking that content in those classes, start studying for that certification at the same time. That's what I would do. Yeah. And hard work pays off, by the way. I want to be clear about that too. Hard work does pay off. Go ahead.
Kind of a comment about what you were saying earlier about HR and how that's working, right?
Oh God, you don't work in HR, do you?
No, I don't.
Okay, I'm kidding.
But I do. I was DOD back in the 70s.
Yeah.
I had to deal with that. I was also the director of member relations and services at ISC Squared for a couple of years.
Nice, nice.
Over the endorsement process and all that kind of good stuff. So I was very into that. One of the things I've noticed with HR groups is while they do gatekeep a lot with certifications, I don't know that it's always on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of feel like a lot of times they hire only a couple of cyber people a year as opposed to salespeople. So what do? They throw out some copy job postings
Oh yeah.
from other places,
Yep.
including cert requirements, which are sometimes actually ridiculous for the job.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I don't want anyone to get the idea. I don't think it's necessarily that they're out to do anything malicious by requiring some of this cert. They just don't know that.
I was just going to say that too. Yeah, it's like they don't know that they don't know. Yeah.
What it takes to do these jobs. That's where you get some of these entry-level jobs that want to see ISSP.
I was just going to say that too. I get so angered because, okay, if it's an entry-level position and they want the CISSP, which in my opinion, I'm not trying to butter your bread because you said you worked for ISC Squared, but like this, the CISSP, that's the mecca. Like that's the one certification that if you're serious about the security realm, that would be the one that I would chase. And again, but however, that wouldn't be the first one I would chase. I want to be clear about that as well.
I'd say management for that one. Because there's a lot of other good certs.
Yeah.
OCSP, all those that are good if you want to be in those certain areas.
Yeah.
That I think are better than the CISSP unless you want to.
Yeah, because I like how they go over the domains for the exam, and again, like the domain content, and it is kind of a leadership and management role. And I will go ahead and make this comment. I'm glad you said that because if it's an entry level position, and the pay is like let's say 6 figures, and they call for a CISSP, okay, my hat's off to you. But if you're looking, but I have seen these, and as you just said, it might be a copy and paste from another organization. But there was one organization, I won't mention them. I looked at it, and they wanted a CISSP entry level and $30,000 a year. So here's a couple trains of thoughts that I have when it comes to that. First and foremost, if an individual does go ahead and take that position, they will be there probably for 1 or 2 weeks. Right, and the other thing too is this is legit their very, very first job, and they have been hustling with their studies, whether it's outside of work and they're looking for a new career while they're in college, and for them to be able to do that and go to an entry-level position, I would almost have to say they don't have any cyber experience. But here's the taboo: I think you have to have experience for that CISSP.
Well, there is an experience requirement.
Yeah, well, you used to have to apply, right? I remember, yeah,
You have to apply.
yeah.
There's an experience requirement that can be waived for a year or so in college,
Mhm.
and et cetera, et cetera. So you can pass the test to become a member of ISC Squared, but not a CISSP.
Right, yeah.
Requirement.
Yeah. And so that's why, like, when I see these job postings, I'm like, how? You know, I just don't understand. Yeah, thank you. Because I don't get it. I don't. And, you know, and I want to be clear, too. I want to go ahead and advise of all my biases. I've never worked in HR, okay? I want to clarify that as well. I'm trying to give you both sides of the coin. I've never worked in HR. But I remember I lost count at 125 interviews I was a part of. And let me be clear, that's interviews that I sat in with organizations while people were being interviewed, right? This is a span of like 15 years. I haven't done it in the longest time. And I've had a lot of individuals in HR and they didn't know about our industry. And so they brought us in to go ahead and hear what they had to say. What I see in the divide, and again, there isn't a one-size-fits-all. The HR individual, in my opinion, the HR professional is looking for the professionalism, looking for, make sure their credentials are valid, making sure they're not a criminal, because again, in this industry, you're going to have background checks, at least an I-9 at minimum, right? You're going to have that from Homeland Security. And then with us, they're trying to see if they understand the content. And I've had individuals in HR where I was like, I don't think you should hire this person. Yeah, but they're so great. They're so personable. I'm like, okay, I get that. And that's great. It's like life's too short to be a jerk, but they know the content. They understand security. They could do so much for your organization. They're not going to work in sales. You see what I mean? I think that's kind of where the disconnect that we have with HR as well. Just my thought.
Another thing that I run into is trading positions. Our HR did not understand that explain to them. And even in other areas such as IT, when you look at a specification for some type of achievement, there's only one group for it. Where in cybersecurity, we have 3 or 4 different approaches for that. And that was news to them, and then they actually had me talk to part of some of them when they started for automotive groups and for that school. And I hope that they might be aware of by name of one, and might not realize that the 3 others might be the same thing. In IT, but that's our project management now with project management and their certification, where there might be another practice now to look at the cybersecurity to have that same level of expertise.
Yeah, I agree. Yes? MCSE. Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. Oh. Well, as a 22-year-old recent graduate, I like that. And so I like that because I am one of those Microsoft credential holders, and I remember taking 7 exams for it, right? And so in Novell, I never took a certification for Novell. I wanted to buy a lottery ticket where when they decided to make the switch to domain controllers with Microsoft out of Novell, I hated getting static IPs left and right. So I like that. And the validity of now is not what it will probably be 10 years from now. And that's another thing we have to think of. That's, again, that E word, experience, right? That's the mecca of it all. And I hope you believe me when I tell you that, and that's what I believe too. Experience is all. So with technology moving forward, no one's asked for my MCP or my MCSE in probably about 15 years. But I've had that, and then with my career advancement and then learning that content, I've carried it with me. And now it's Microsoft Azure. Right? You see what I mean? It's just like those changes. So I just think, kind of like with the comment I made earlier, will they eventually be not as valid? Yeah, I do. CompTIA is about the one that stood strong. It really has. They've been one of the players in the game that they're still around. I mean, I remember first hearing about it, I want to say 90s, right? I think they had tests back then in the 90s. Again, I started my certification journey in around 2004, 2005. So when I was very young, again, I'm only 22. Go ahead. Hey, don't laugh at that. No, again. What's that? Ah. Yeah. Yeah. Can I give you my 2 cents on that? I will never renew my degrees, but I would renew my certifications. And again, that's where we get into that game of like, which is more, education or certifications. I was mentioning to you a moment ago, I think both. The education can never be taken away from you. And I think the education, again, the degree is the one thing that can never be taken away from you. And I agree. But it's like, I often wonder too, kind of to piggyback off of what you said, what's going to happen when HR, if they're not doing it already? Well, your degree in IT is back from 2000. Your degree from IT is back, like you said, well, all right, you have a degree in computer programming, but that's back when it was punch cards. We need someone that's working in Python, right? And I'll go ahead and tell you this. Anyone here work with Python? Oh, I love it and I hate it. Because when I was working in my computer programming degree, we were working on a thing called COBOL. If you flinched, you know what COBOL is. It was awful. It was the worst. And then I get Python. I didn't start working with Python until I started teaching. And then like, well, just go ahead. They asked me to download PyCharm. I'm looking at it. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I cursed because I couldn't believe how easy it was to create variables and definitions and classes and everything. So, you know, I don't have a solid answer for you. I have predictions. I think that the certifications that we have now, yeah, probably decades from now will be something different. I always like to ask people this question too. What's after the internet? Yeah, you see what I mean? It's like, I don't think we're talking about that enough in the industry either. You know, I remember when I was growing up, if you had satellite, you had the big dish that would, you know, do the whole moving, right? Then when we went to, anyone here remember PrimeStar? The mini dishes, PrimeStar, they didn't last that long, but everyone was just like flabbergasted when you could have a mini dish to your house that didn't have to turn, right? And then we had 56K dial-up, right? The modems in the mid-90s. And then I don't think it really became commonplace for organizations and in homes for high-speed internet till about the 2000s. And as we keep progressing, right? Anyone still have a landline? Landline in their home? Okay, gotcha. I still have one, but I think it's going to kind of be one of those things too, like what's after the internet, and then it'll be kind of like what landlines are today to cell phones. It's like, okay, that's cool, you still use the internet, but we have this new communication tool. You see what I mean? But what we're able to do in this industry is that I find that as long as you have the experience and you keep current, we're always able to pivot. Does that make sense? Right? So, yeah, because again, I remember just like studying domain controllers so intensively, like group policy objects intensively, and just for like having it confined and thinking that I would never be able to touch it outside of the organization, right? Even having the remote ability, like I had that factor. And now we have Microsoft Azure, right? So yeah, it's crazy. And then who's not to say, anyone here work with Amazon Web Services? Anyone work with that platform? Yeah. I think that's gonna be a new player in town. So you see what I mean? Like there's all this type of shifting. I'm sorry I answered your question with questions and then I jabbered on. Yeah. Yeah. Mm.
So I can have my degree and it's 25 years old and it is something completely unrelated, and that will still get me past the initial cut rate, if you will.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I spend a lot of time very focused on getting a degree so I can go to work for Lockheed.
Lockheed Martin? Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And that was my thing. I wanted to go to work for them because I worked for the U.S. Army. It was 60 miles each way, round trip every day for 10 years. And I was like, they're in my backyard.
Mhm.
I worked really hard. Now, I couldn't get past their gatekeeping. That CISSP, ISSAP, focus on all of that. None of that was getting past their simple degree background. I was the security manager for the second regional cyber center, so all of the Army's North American network. I was the security manager for that stuff, like the security guy. And I couldn't get a simple job with them because I didn't have my degree.
Yeah.
And the gatekeeping on that is kind of ridiculous when you're looking at something that's 20 or 30 years old. So for those of us in the room that are getting in the positions where we're being hired, I think it's really important that we stay for experience.
Mm-hmm.
There's a hell of a lot of people out there that are very smart, very experienced, that, especially as old timers, who started off that weren't necessarily reading back then.
No. Again, like, you know, getting in the cyber realm, again, I come from, now, by the time I started my master's, it was, right, it started to become an actual term in higher ed. But yeah, it's, you know, undergrad, it was computer science with an emphasis on computer programming and web design. I mean, that's what mine was. But being able to pivot in the security realm, and I'll tell you, when I had that pivotal moment, I worked in Philadelphia, and this would have been, because it was a place where I was fired from after my CCNA. It was probably around 2008, 2009, and I was in Philadelphia, and they were jackhammering in the city, and they cut the fiber optic line. Yeah, like the main Comcast. Anyone familiar with that ISP? Comcast? I think it's Xfinity now, but it used to be Comcast. And they dug way too deep. They hit the fiber optic line, so the one part of the city was completely out. And so I'm sitting there having coffee before work, and everyone jumped on their phones to give hotspots. And everyone was like, "Can I join you? Can I join you? Can I join you?" And I was like, "Whoa!" I couldn't believe the psychology of how quickly Like they didn't even understand the encryption. Like they didn't understand whether it was an open network or not. They wanted connectivity. And that was the pivotal moment when I decided to get into security. Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, I completely understand. And I probably have 15 more years and I'll probably retire. But I'm looking forward to 20, 30 years from now, where the industry will be. And I think by that time, because I believe that we are still so new and so fresh in the workforce, again, it was just kind of like we were wizards at one time. You know what? Does that make sense? Like we were these imaginary individuals. But now that we're becoming commonplace in I don't think we're still commonplace in organizations. I like the presenters that were here before this presentation, how they were mentioning, again, it's like security is not an issue until they're unsecure. But I'm with them. And they said this one comment too. You've already been breached and you don't even know it. I think once society realizes that we are needed, not even needed, we have to be there, right? They have to have us. I think the hiring process will become better. I think that it will become more, I don't want to say, I'll say realistic. I'll use that term. So that's my hope. I don't know if that will take place, but I hope so. I really do. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I can tell you, working with a number of companies hiring managers over the years, I've heard many times from them, we want somebody with a degree. We don't care what the degree is.
Yep.
Because we're not looking for the skills. We think having a degree says something about your ability, your work ethic, your desire to go through and see something complete, whatever. So they use the degree, the accomplishment of the degree, as an indicator of what kind of employee you will be.
My master's is in underwater basket weaving. Right? Thank you. That is one of my favorites because it's true. Like I hear that all the time, and I think it's a misconception. And again, if you are interested in I'm going to pitch myself. If you are interested in getting your degree in cybersecurity, come talk to me. Because again, I'm the program director at University of Charleston for the undergrad and graduate cybersecurity programs. But I do see that as well. I think it's, again, you were mentioning earlier, you may have a degree that's 10 to 20 years prior, but again, with your experience, you're able to still go ahead and pivot, and you're learning as you still have that experience. Can you have the individual that has the degree in liberal arts? Can you teach them this content? Yes. All right. I'm not saying that you can't, but can the rubber meet the road day one? See, that's where I kind of go with it. If they don't have any training or any education in our industries or our practices rather, and they're just, well, I'll just learn as I go. It's kind of I'll fake it till I make it, right? It's also just they have the college degree, so they're intelligent, which is true, all right? That is true. But when it comes to, I just look at it this way. If you had your degree in underwater basket, actually, I'll give you this one too. You have your degree in cybersecurity and you don't know anything about flying. I don't want you flying my plane, right? You see what I mean? Like that's kind of the severity I look at it, right? Sure, I love arguing.
So, and take no offense to the instructor at university, but a lot of unis, by the time the person gets out of that degree program, everything they learned is dated. Like they don't pivot very quickly. The smaller schools oftentimes see they refresh a lot more, but a lot of these guys get out of school and they have no idea they can't hit the road. They can't be running when they get. They still have to go through and learn the newer stuff.
Oh, they're not experts. Yeah, they're not experts, but I do think they have a better foundation when they do get in. I will tell you this one. I remember when I finished my degree in my very first job, I remember walked in there and I realized I didn't know anything. Right. And I also think it's a little bit of lack of confidence when you walk into your very first job, your very first professional job. And again, you kind of have a little bit of self-doubt. I had real bad imposter syndrome. So I think there's that factor. But I will tell you, when it comes to University of Charleston's content, we have a Doctor Who machine, so we're ahead of the curve. Time machine, anyone? Okay. Woo. Boy, that ball dropped.
I've hired people out of college.
Yeah.
They were not great.
Mm-hmm.
But you kind of expect that without the experience.
Yeah.
And that's where the certifications, I think, come in to say, okay, not only do I know the basics of networking, but I also know specifics about this
Mm-hmm.
or specifics about that. And that should tell you at least they've had experience with it. So my outlook on certifications is, it tells me as a hiring manager or somebody like that, that they knew a certain level of knowledge about a certain topic at a given time.
Like that.
Okay? That to me is what it tells me. That's all a cert tells me.
Mm-hmm.
Having been around the CISSP, some people swear it makes you this super something. But no, you knew a certain amount at a certain time about a certain number of different things.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, every 3 years
What's that?
for the renewal of the CISSP?
That's just CEUs.
Okay, so you do have the CEUs. Gotcha. You don't have to renew. Yeah. 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 Well, then that's where I think the validity of the certification can come into play, though, because you're still, like, again, presentations, like what I'm doing today can give you a CEU credit. Teaching can give you a CEU credit. Publications can give you a CEU credit. Like I was showing the books. And again, it's I'm not saying that it's a game, but again, you do have to go ahead and make sure that you're staying on top of it. What I can tell you about mine is mine are good for life. A lot of my certifications that I had. And I'm here to tell you, if I sat down to take one of those tests today, being an expert in this content, writing the books, having a doctorate, I'd probably get smoked. That's what I'm telling you. You just got to get back in that rhythm. Again, but if I studied, I'd be okay. But it's, I will say they're a lot more difficult than they were when I took them. And I mean as a compliment to everybody. I don't mean that to scare anybody. It's just like, again, it's more skill-based than it was in the past. It used to be when I was taking those exams, it was straight up multiple choice. The answer stood you right in the face if you remotely understood the content. But I remember the one that I struggled with the most of my A+. Anyone here ever study IRQs?
The thing about that is, like, I had the A+, Net plus for life.
Yeah.
But after you do that, you get in the field, you realize what information from that exam is actually useful and what just how do you learn as far as the exam.
I think understanding how hubs are programmed is a good thing to know.
Yeah.
Because when I took the Net Plus, that was a big one. Like, so they were talking about that full duplex and half duplex type network, and like it was literally 50-50. Like you had a lot of information about hubs and then a lot of information about switches. You know, routers are routers. Well, I don't mean it that way, but again, like when you were getting to like the OSI layers you were working, the hubs were every bit as important as the switches. And I remember even at that moment, I'm like, ooh, this is dated.
But can you remember all these different non-connected and everything without any non-connected?
Oh, sure. I mean, I'm not going to tell because I don't want to give answers to the exam, but wink, wink, nod, nod. No, I couldn't do that if I had to. Shoot, I remember it wasn't until I started teaching one of the A+ courses at the University of Charleston that I remember what a PS2 connector was. I hadn't seen them in so long. For those of you that don't know, that's the purple and green connectors for the mouse and the keyboard. Like I'm looking at this and I'm trying to like remember what it was. And I couldn't tell you the last time I connected a serial port. Anyone here remember the tractor printers? Right? Oh gosh, love that noise. Said no one ever, right? So yeah, I mean, you kind of forget about those technologies. And the big one too, as far as with advancing with these certifications, I think it's great they're talking about virtualization as well, which they do have in the Network Plus now. They don't necessarily say VMware or any of those companies. I actually don't think it's VMware anymore. I think they were just recently purchased. I could be wrong. But yeah, and so again, being up-to-date content, I'll ask you all this. I should have put this in the presentation. What do you think about company certifications? Are y'all familiar with this concept? You earn a certification through the actual organization? Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, so like let's say you work at Procter & Gamble, okay, and they want you to take their network certification based on their vicinity itself. That's exactly what I mean. Trash, yeah. But okay, but can it be good for, again, and let's talk Procter & Gamble, I kid you not. I mean, it's a big organization, it's a big deal. It could give you progression there.
I was going to say, the only way that would be valuable is a learning curve or learning path.
Yeah.
You know, they say you want to advance to level 2, this is
Mhm.
art or academy or whatever you want to say, LMS, whatever. You do this, you get X amount of time. Then after this, it's a situation where you get that because that's good.
Yeah, I agree.
I would worry about the quality of those exams, because unless you're an exam writer, unless you're putting a lot of effort into it, there's a lot behind.
Yes, there is.
These people called psychometricians, you heard that word before? Right? They look at statistical things, probabilities, and stuff like that. There's a lot involved in actually doing a real certification that
Yeah.
And I would be afraid of in those situations. It probably wouldn't be putting a whole lot of effort. Yeah, but again, it's, I'm not someone who goes on Harvard, you're finding certifications, so just as you take your, an hour and 40 minutes lecture, you take and watch, and you take the test afterwards. That's a significant thing.
No, there is, but there are organizations that will do this stack they like to use the term certification, but it's only valid there. It's like you have a driver's license in this one state, but you could only drive in the one state, right? Go ahead. Yeah. 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 And they are out there, right? I'm not going to mention organizations, but they are out there, and it is kind of a how do I put it? A dream grabber. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like, oh, you want to get into cyber? Well, you can take our certifications here at this organization. You can progress, but they're teaching you their way. See what I mean? Yeah. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Gosh, see, now you're opening up a new can of worms to me because I didn't want to talk about this. Do you think that the certification industry is treating the certifications like a video game where you level up? Yeah. I wanted to leave that out so badly, but you brought it up. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because, again, like with the, I'm not going to say my age, but again, if you have the individuals that were born from like 95 and beyond, it seems to be a thing, like that's a hardcore, like professional gaming group. Like that demographic is very good at gaming. And so with that, it's all about leveling up. And again, it's nothing bad about it with video games. You have a character and you're passionate about it. But I believe that these organizations are utilizing that platform and that dopamine hit, that hedonic treadmill theory with the leveling up. Because again, when you get to a certain level and then your other friend over here is leveling up more with the certifications, it's almost like a chase. Yeah, yeah.
Well, they don't publicize it now, but 2 years ago when I got my Security Plus, I still got that, so there's kind of a gamifying Easter egg type thing.
Yeah. And you want to know what else? Do we have any video game fans in here? If you want to enhance your cybersecurity skills, try Hack Me. It's fun, and Try Hack Me is one of the. I wish it would have been around earlier. I haven't really discovered it until the past 5 years. I'm like, where has this been? Did you have another comment? Oh, maybe you're stretching. Sorry. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. And then isn't it crazy that they can give you that, again, hedonic treadmill theory, and they give you that up and up and up, they give you that good feeling, and then sometimes they don't even have to pay you more because they made you feel good because you accomplished something. In my consulting, I've dealt with a lot of people that have experienced just that. And then God forbid you just don't do it at all, right? Because the company, they'll ostracize you. And I've dealt with a lot of clients that have dealt with that too. Yeah. 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 Boy, we solved all the world's problems today. What time is it? Like 10 till? Oh, it's 11 till. I get that extra minute. No, just kidding. I don't want to keep you any longer than we planned because I know it's Friday. I'm sure you all want to go home and relax. Any last minute questions, comments, or concerns before I give you my final statement? Okay. All right. Might sound familiar to some of you, others not so much. I want to wish you an awesome evening, an awesome weekend. Stay safe, stay well, and stay sane. And thank you all for making this the best job ever. I'm very blessed that I get to do this in my career. I don't know if you took anything away from me, but I took away a lot from you. I like your pushbacks. I like your questions. I like the epiphanies. I love it all. And I'm going to ask you, who are we? That's weak. We are the best in the business. So when I ask you, who are we? We are... No. Who are we? One more time. Who are we? There we go. Thank you all so much.
See you then.